A new poll from Progress Texas seems to show the Texans are looking for candidates who stand for something in the Democratic primary as opposed to just beating President Trump. Last night on Fox 7 Austin News at 5, Mike Warren talked about the poll with Travis County GOP Chairman Matt Mackowiak and Ed Espinoza from Progress Texas.
And here's the results of the poll. If the Democratic candidates for president were Joe Biden, Michael Bloomberg, Pete Buttigieg, Tulsi Gabbard, Amy Klobuchar, Bernie Sanders, Tom Steyer, and Elizabeth Warren. Ed, what does this poll say to you?
So there are two things that stand out right away. The first is that this is a horse race between Biden and Bernie Sanders right now, both tied at 24% each. The other thing that we found that was somewhat surprising is that Bloomberg is at 17%, but his negatives are very high. He has a 41% approval rating and a 39% disapproval rating. That is extremely high considering that nobody has run any Democratic attack ads against him yet. So that jumped out at me. The other thing that was somewhat surprising is that Elizabeth Warren, while at 14%, had the highest approval rating in the poll at 66%, and she was everybody's second choice. So a lot of interesting things here and a very tight race heading into next week's election.
Matt Mackowiak, what do you make of this poll?
Yeah, I think it's one data point, to look at. We obviously have to consider the fact that early voting has already been cast. Most of those votes have been cast. It goes till Friday, but the bulk of the early voting has already, been completed. And so new developments that are occurring, whether it be a debate or whether it be a poll or an announcement or something, is going to have very limited effect because there's a very small number of votes that are still outstanding. Look, I think it's basically a three-way race for Texas. I probably agree that Biden and Bernie are the top two and that Bloomberg will be third. Keep in mind that the delegates are allocated by each congressional district, and I believe there's a threshold. And so I imagine that those three Democrats are going to get significant delegates out of Texas. I think everyone else is going to get a very, very, very small number. And we'll see kind of where it all ends up. Of course, Texas is going to be part of a large number of states, California, Minnesota. There are so many states that are voting on Tuesday. And so Texas will matter because of the sheer number of delegates, but it's going to not matter all by itself.
Ed, we just had our latest debate last night. Do you think that's going to have any effect?
It might. I think the course of all of the debates, especially last week's in Nevada that had got a lot of attention, are going to have most of the impact. But really, people are making their decisions right now based on the entirety of this race. And I agree with Matt. A lot of votes have already been cast. Texas is the crown jewel on Super Tuesday, along with California. Out of 14 states, no states come as close as Texas and California. Another thing about this poll that we found that was interesting is that Bloomberg, more than any other candidate, siphons off votes from Joe Biden. If Bloomberg were not in this race, Joe Biden would be at 31% with a clear path to win. But because Bloomberg is there, he is actually pulling Biden down. So it's not inconceivable that Bloomberg could lose some support on Election Day, and then again with Warren's numbers being so popular in the approval ratings, maybe to outperform her numbers. There's still too many candidates in the race and a lot of undecideds left on the table.
Well, what about Bloomberg, Matt Mackowiak? Is he kind of a spoiler, especially for Biden?
Yeah, I mean, I think as recently as last week, you might have been able to argue the reverse, that Biden was spoiling it for Bloomberg. That first debate in Las Vegas last week was a real disaster for him, and I think it stalled the momentum that he was seeing. He did better last night, not I don't think good enough, but did better. And so that debate last night, I think, was bad for just about everyone except perhaps Biden, who I thought did have probably the best night relative to the others. But it was so nasty and so ugly that I think everyone got a little bit hurt by it. But look, Bloomberg is going to be a factor. Look, this nomination is coming down to Bernie, Biden, and Bloomberg. One of those three people is going to be the Democratic nominee, and it may not happen until the second ballot at the convention in Milwaukee.
Okay, well,
Lord help us.
We're getting closer to whatever happens. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thanks.